Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My family of four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate from there. I'm relatively new to RVing, and a few years ago, I convinced my wife that for an anniversary present, we should buy a used tent trailer from some friends of ours. Ever since then, we have fallen head over heels for the RV life, and we now find ourselves towing a 26-foot Jayco travel trailer. So grab yourself a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. This episode is a pretty special one to me. Tomorrow marks the 41st anniversary of the eruption of Mt St Helens. And as someone who was born and raised here in Washington State, I'm somewhat embarrassed to even admit that I've never been to see the mountain for myself. What I can share with you is what I remember from the events that unfolded on May 18th, 1980. At the time, I was a 6-year-old boy. I vaguely remember the news stories on the television talking about an imminent eruption being possible. But that age, I never really gave it much attention. On the morning of May 18th, I was living in Pullman, Washington, which is on the eastern side of the state, and about 7 miles to Moscow, Idaho. My dad was in veterinary school at Washington State University. And on this Sunday morning, my family headed into Moscow to go to a pay and pack store, which was like a hardware, sporting goods, camping kind of store. I don't remember the purpose of this particular trip, but as we left the store, it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and the sky had turned dark. Eerily nighttime dark. Here it was midday, and if one didn't know better, you would have thought it was midnight. We piled into our yellow Opel station wagon, turned on the headlights and the radio, and began the 7-mile trip home. That newscast that we were listening to confirmed that, in fact, Mt St Helens had erupted, and they were reporting on what they were witnessing. Somewhere in that drive home, it had begun to snow, or what I thought was snow. But in reality, it was falling heavy ash. It was mesmerizing to be looking out the window on the drive home and seeing the darkness, the gray snowfall fleeing past us like we were in a time warp on the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. When we got home, my mother hurriedly took my 2-year-old little sister into the house, and I was helping my dad unload the car. But then we realized that our 2 cats, Bosco and Tiffany, were scared and under our house. My dad and I then crawled under the house in the crawl space to help rescue the cats by bringing them inside to safety. The days following the eruption, everything was shut down. People had to wear masks outside because the ash was still so thick and it was causing respiratory issues for some folks. The school year had ended just as abruptly. It took a long time to dig out from all of the ash. In fact, even to this day, if you are driving along the I-90 corridor in eastern Washington, there is a good possibility that you can still find ash along the roadside 40 years later. I'm very excited to introduce my guest, Junelle Kroontje. She and her family have been RV camping, hiking, and exploring Mt St Helens and the surrounding area every year, and sometimes even twice a year, for many years. She is going to share with us places to camp, hikes to take, and places to see. You just might want to take some notes today. Will you kindly share with me, Junelle, what are some of your memories or stories that you might have heard about that fateful day 41 years ago tomorrow when Mt St Helens erupted?
41 years ago. I can't even believe it. I remember it happening in that I remember my mom talking about it and experiencing it, as I was growing up. And she would talk about how all the cars, were covered in ash. I imagine the summers, when the wildfires, not that these are good things, but when the wildfires get really bad and it gets super smoky in the air, I imagine that might be what it was like when Mt St Helens blew. Mt St Helens was a mystical place that I heard about and imagined in my mind. And I've lived here my whole life in the Pacific Northwest, but I never I never actually had made it there.
I have never been to Mount St. Helens, and I too have been born and raised in this state. So
Okay.
I am very excited to actually talk to you and to hear about your family's adventures in and around Mount St. Helens, because
I am so excited to share with you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, it is such a treat. It is even better. It is even better than what you think it's going to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. So I guess then, kind of on that note, what is it specifically about Mount St. Helens that has you and your family continuing to keep coming back?
A little personal story about me. I really feel like I need to tell this because it kind of helps explain, I think, my connection to the mountain. So I view my life in many ways as like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I had a lot to overcome from my childhood, struggled through poverty, and against odds, to be one of the first in my family to go to college. And then I had cancer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's been 14 or 15 years ago now. Like stage 4 cancer. And then I had meningitis. Like, I mean, these things just happen to me, and I'm not sure why, but they do. And the way I look at it is, if it happens to me, then I'm happy to take that load off of somebody else close to me that I love. But regardless, like, I've been through some stuff in my life, and it has totally made me who I am. And so when I finally went to Mount St. Helens, I kept saying to my wife, I'm like, this is a bucket list. This is bucket list. I want to go. And we finally booked it. We finally booked the first trip. Going that first time and seeing this literal mountain that rebirthed out of ashes, it just hit me in the core of who I was. And I just felt so connected to the land. Getting to see it firsthand, like, you see pictures and everything, but actually driving through that and seeing the difference in the landscape and all of the trees that are, fallen in the water. I mean, it is incredibly powerful and humbling and beautiful all at the same time. And if you allow yourself to experience it in that way, just mystical nature of the mountain always makes the list of places we go to every year.
I mean, I remember the pictures of the landscape from my childhood when trees were all downed and twigs, and they looked like a pile of toothpicks. I mean, you see these aerial shots, and they were like, how much rebirth in these 41 plus years now? I'm assuming green trees are back, and nature has returned and that kind of, but like, is there still can you get remnants of that stark contrast? Can you still find ash? Because I know ash is still in Eastern Washington. Here we are 40 years later. You can be driving down I-90 and there's still ash on the side of the road as you come into the state.
I think the best place to see that contrast is Windy Ridge. So Windy Ridge is on the southeast east side of the mountain. From there, you literally see the ash of the dome, right? No longer the dome, right? The crater, the massive ash. You can see still to this day all of the matchstick trees down in the lake. And then you can also see where the new trees have grown. And you can see the difference between where they were replanted, where they were reforested, and where they allowed natural reforestation to occur. And so you will literally be driving along, and it's like you're going through a wildfire, the remnants of a wildfire, and then bam, like trees. Yeah, I mean, it is so crazy. So a really good time to go there, I think, is later in the summer. It is a must-see.
Are there other hikes that you would say, activity-wise, that are fantastic to do and to go? So tell me about some of those other hikes.
There's two that I'm going to talk about. One is the June Lake hike. Oh my goodness. It is we did it. So just give you an idea of how long it takes. We did it with the kids the morning we were getting ready to leave the campsite. So we were able to get it done and still come back and get the camper ready to go and be out in time. And when you get out to June Lake, you just walk up and it's just this nice, beautiful, pristine lake. The water is so still that you can see the reflection, right, of everything around it. And the other one is the Ape Caves. So you may have heard about these. These are the lava caves down in the south part of the mountain. You can go into the Ape Caves, and they're actually, you can go two different directions. You can go an easy direction or you can go a hard direction. Pro tip, bring the headlamps and a flashlight and backpacks and wear a light jacket, because in the caves, the temperature is pretty even all year round. So even if it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to feel cool in the cave. So a light jacket is perfect. And the kids will have a great time doing the Ape Caves.
So let's talk now about RV friendly campgrounds. So before we start getting into that, just tell me a little bit about your RV. I mean, is it lengthwise so listeners can get an idea? Like,
yeah, so I was totally cracking up when I was listening to your pop-up tent trailer episode.
Yeah.
Because
similar story.
So we didn't actually have a pop-up tent trailer. We had a smaller trailer. And we didn't want to climb over each other anymore to get in and out of bed. And
fair enough. Yeah.
We wanted bunks for the kids, So we also have a Jayco. We have a Jayco J-Flight. It is a 22.4 BHW. So it's a bunk house, and I think it's 28 feet from tongue to back.
Now, so what RV friendly campgrounds has your family stayed at when you've been down there visiting?
Yes, I would love to. Okay, so first things first, great starter park. And when it's easy to book, not easy to book right now because everybody's going, which is amazing, but Sequest State Park, right off of I-5. It's a little bit closer since it's off of the north. All the state parks are RV friendly. I don't recall if they had a lot of hookups at that particular state park, but the thing I like about the state parks is that, there tends to be privacy between sites and veterans, disabled veterans can get a reduced Discover Pass in camping. So
yep. And there's usually a special spot too, right?
Yeah, depending on your disability, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And anyway, so it's an easily accessible state park, great, and it's on the way to Johnston Ridge Observatory. So that's the first one.
How far is it from the campsite to the Johnston Ridge Observatory?
It's about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So we packed a lunch, we just packed everything up and made it like a day trip. But it is one of the more accessible campgrounds to getting to Johnston Ridge. All right. So on the northeast side of the mountain near Randall is this little RV park. It is so family friendly. It is called Tower Rock RV. Listen, Brooks, you can't even make a reservation on their website. Like, you have to call them. Right?
Old school.
You have to you have to call them. Totally this family owned RV campground, and it sits up against these hills, and they've got this pond that the family who owns it, right? They're retired. This retired couple that just decided this was where they were going to retire was owning this great RV park. So they've got this pond that they stock with fish. And so they help all the kids fish, and you only pay if you catch your fish, but then you have to keep your fish. If you catch it, you have to pay for it. And so it's not catch and release. it's
That's
catch and
fine.
cook. Yeah.
Catch and cook. Yeah. I love it.
And there's all kinds of like salamanders and frogs around this pond. And they've got, these different tent spots and RV spots, and they've got, most of them are hookups. I think they have a couple that are not, but most of them are hookups. And you can get a wheelbarrow of firewood for $10. It is the most smoking firewood deal I have ever seen. And he sits there and he loads it up for you, and then he brings it over. And I mean, it is the coolest campground ever. And let me tell you, there's like, don't try to have any internet or use your phone. And in fact, they will turn on their emergency internet satellite phone if you need to do something for like 5 minutes, but they're like, that's it. We're kicking you off. There's no streaming. Like,
that's great.
Yeah. So Tower Rock RV.
Okay. And approximately how much a night would you say? Guessing.
Oh, I don't remember. $45 a night. I mean, it was reasonable. I mean,
that sounds about fair.
Yeah. And from there, so something else that you were asking me about, something cool to see. So near Randall, in that northeast part of the mountain, further away is something called Laser Cave, Layser. And Laser Cave was actually an archaeological site that they discovered all of this stuff from the ancient peoples who cared for this land before the first eruption not first, but more modern eruption that was like 3,500 years ago. So 7,000 years ago, they found evidence of the tribes who lived near Mount St Helens 7,000 years ago. I mean, it's just,
that sounds super cool.
Oh, I mean, just incredible. And like to just be in that space and know that you're standing, I mean, all of it is sacred land. But I mean, to really have that awareness of, of it, and it's perfect, for the kids. And it's not even like a hike. It's like 0.25 miles, from where you drive, kind of thing. Up this Forest Service road. So that is also a really cool thing to do. And then over even just almost due east, this is the perfect campground to stay at if you are totally like, you just want a windy ridge, you want to camp and hike, right? Like, so Iron Creek Campground is a Forest Service campground, National Forest Service campground. And so I don't think they have any hookups.
They don't have hookups, and they have vaulted toilets for those not in RVs. It's vaulted toilets.
Yes. Yep. Which is why we're bringing our own.
But hey, the other question is though, can you fit in there? Because a lot of times I find they're much smaller campgrounds, and so getting in there with a little bit larger trailer can be a challenge. So
I will say that the roads were a little bumpy and a little tight, but we got in there with our. We took our Nash, and it was. You haven't taken your new Jayco. We have not taken the new Jayco to Iron Creek Campground. We haven't really had to. I think the year we took the Nash, it was like, this is the campground we found that had someplace open.
Right.
But it is such great proximity to Windy Ridge, and not far from there is the Iron Creek Falls. Oh my goodness. I mean, it is like something out of a movie, like the Blue Lagoon or some picture from Hawaii, or I don't know. So Iron Creek Falls, just literally, there's just this pull out for the trailhead. Again, it's not even much of a trail other than you need to have good footing, right? Because you're going down these rocks and stuff. But then you get down there and there's just fallen trees and this beautiful little waterfall, and you can get behind the waterfall.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Right? I mean, so it's so pretty and totally worth it. It is stunning. Totally worth it. And so Iron Creek Campground, I feel like, is more for like hardcore.
the more adventurous.
Yes. Yeah. Hardcore, but totally worth it, right? The paycheck is there in all of the beauty around you. And then last but not least, on the south side of the mountain, we have stayed a couple of times now at Lone Fir Resort. So you can see we've done a variety of privately owned, state park, like we've done it all. Lone Fir Resort. And the nice thing about Lone Fir Resort is they have tent, RV, and cabins. And so it's a really great location if you want to get together with family and friends who may have a variety of,
don't have a trailer.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have a pool, but it is not heated. And so it is cold. It's so cold.
It's a polar bear swim.
It's a polar bear swim. Yes. The kids sometimes don't care, but they don't last long.
That's funny.
But they do things like outdoor movie night,
fun.
They would blow up this movie screen and they have a little restaurant and bar there. So it's kind of one of those RV resorts, but it's great. Literally, like I said, we've stayed there twice now. We just really like the customer service. We like the environment, and the proximity is good to the Ape Caves and going up that southeast side of the mountain. You can even do a day trip up to Windy Ridge from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far a drive would you say it is to get from there up to Windy Ridge?
Oh, it's probably 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going for the full. Yeah, you're going for the full day. But again, you just pack all your stuff, right? And you just. Yeah.
Yep. Go.
Yep. So those are the 4 places that we have stayed at, and a couple of them a couple of times.
So how long would you say would be a good ideal trip for somebody who's going to spend some time in and around Mount St. Helens?
At least 3 nights.
Okay.
Yeah, at least. Because there's just we go every year, sometimes twice a year.
Awesome.
And I still don't feel like I've seen everything. And if you gave yourself a full 5 days, you could day trip to all sides of the mountain. Right.
And really get a good view of it. Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right. Just you would dedicate one day to the north side, one day to the east side, one day to the south side. And one day to chill, because you're gonna need
a down day. Totally.
To play cards and
Yeah. What advice do you have for anyone who is looking to go down or considering to go down and to check out Mount St. Helens? That means that's a good question.
Right. Yeah.
That big sigh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think just learning about that day, right? Seeing some of the pictures and watching some of the YouTube, right? Some of the stories and the documentaries ahead of time. Because when you do that and then you walk around there, all of a sudden, I mean, it's just, you cannot help but look at it with a whole new set of eyes. A whole new set of eyes, right? They literally had no idea if after the explosion and all of that ash and mud, if it would ever recover, right? Was it just going to be a muddy, ashy pit?
Right. It was just
and to see it now, I mean, it is mind-blowing, but I don't think you can appreciate that. I mean, maybe, right. But it's just not the same until you really see it and see the images of all of the massive stuff coming down the Toutle River and getting caught in the bridge, and just watching the trees getting it just looks unreal in the movies. And then when you actually get there and you still see, like I said, I mean, it just does something different for the lens that you're using when you're experiencing the mountain, regardless of where you are.
Cool. Thank you. And then the last question that I always love to ask people, what is your favorite national park and why?
This may be, what do they call it? Recency bias.
Okay.
But last summer, we went to Yellowstone. And it was, talk about another place that just looks even more magical in person. Yellowstone was just amazing. Another giant, giant volcano, super volcano. And I cannot wait to go back to Yellowstone.
Well, Junelle, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here on RV Out West to talk about Mt St Helens, places to go, hikes to see and do. I'm really excited. And now, more importantly, I'm thinking we just actually need to offline book a trip.
Oh, yeah.
I think you and Daylene would be the most incredible tour guides.
Oh,
so I think we just need to get our families
totally.
together.
We love being tour guides for people at Mt St Helens. It's funny. We've taken several people there now.
Cool. Well, again,
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. Have a great night. Take
Anytime.
care.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
It's time for our pit stop. The knowledge of time-saving RV tips are often passed down by rote, not necessarily from generation to generation, but rather shared around a campfire from the more experienced to the uninitiated. I have found that oftentimes these tips are incorporated into a story of follies that explain how and why the tip has come to be. In this pit stop, I'm going to share 5 simple campsite tips to make your trip more enjoyable. Number 5. Use a bungee cord around the pedestal to secure the lid from flapping around, especially if you know that the wind will be picking up during your trip. I keep a bungee cord now in my electrical box, so it's right there when I'm hooking up to shore power. Number 4. Turn off the water when you leave the campsite. I've no personal experience from this one, but when I learned of it, it just made sense, and I'd hate to be able to share a story about such a situation. It's just best that if you know you're going to be away from your campsite for an extended period of time, to shut off the water at the source. Number 3. Pedialyte Pops. Pedialyte Pops from the freezer are a great afternoon treat. As a child growing up in the 80s, Otter Pops were that perfect treat on those hot, lazy summer days. Granted, those are filled and loaded with sugar, so we have found that Pedialyte makes pops now, and we always keep them in our RV freezer, so when the kids come rolling through between bike rides, they can have a quick treat, but this actually provides some electrolytes so they can keep playing and having fun longer. I'm not going to lie, the adults have been known to enjoy them too. Number 2. Order your groceries for pickup close to your destination. When the grocery stores a couple of years ago started the designated parking spots for click list, we were pretty quick to jump on the bandwagon. We are an active skiing family, and so we would go online grocery shopping the night before, and then on our way home from a day of skiing, we would quickly pull into the grocery store to have them load our groceries into the car. During the pandemic, it was our go-to for groceries. Recently, we used this service on a camping trip, and we have found grocery stores that were 5 miles from our campground, and so we ordered for pickup there. Our trailer was lighter on the way, and the food wasn't on board, and it was so simple to unhook the trailer and then go pick up the groceries. I totally recommend you give this a try. Number 1. On a hot summer day, I would say get a mister for your campsite. Last summer, we were still camping in Pippa the Pop-Up, and in eastern Washington, it can get super hot. I've always used a Y adapter at the water source to have one going to the trailer, and then the other is all on quick disconnects for various camp activities and chores. From outdoor showers, washing dishes, sprinklers, slip and slides, to using a mister. I run a mister from the water source, and then wrap it around my 10x10 tent, or if we're lucky and have trees in our campsite, I'll loosely add them in the trees. That way we adults have a cool place to sit under, to play cards or just chat and share stories. Adding a mister to your campsite is a game changer. Well, there you have it. 5 easy tips and tricks to up your game in the campground, making your life a little easier and a whole lot more enjoyable. Thanks for listening today. and I hope you enjoyed our episode on Mt St Helens. Our next episode in 2 weeks, we interview Keith Bernard, owner, CEO of the family-run water filtration business Clear2O. He and I will be discussing potable water and how to get the very best tasting water directly from the tap inside your RV. In the meantime, if you would please leave a review of the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, I sure would appreciate it. Remember to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. So on that note, get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.